in every pot.
When our founding fathers established this republic, they created a political and economic system unique among nations.
I have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
A system which has led the United States to the very pinnacle in wealth and in world leadership.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Therefore, I must respectfully decline to answer, on Fifth Amendment grounds, all the questions of this committee and subcommittee.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I think the American dream was really hijacked away from the Thomas Jefferson ideal of life, liberty, and especially the pursuit of happiness into just the pursuit of stuff.
Will Marre, co-founder of the Covey Leadership Center, helped build The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People into one of the best-selling self-help books of all time. As author, coach, and leadership advisor to Fortune 500 companies, Will has spent nearly 30 years helping people revolutionize the way they live, work, and play.
When I started looking at the American dream, I went back to the beginning. And I said, where did this idea really come from? And of course, it came from the beginning of America. So think back now into colonial times. People are thinking about coming to America. They're living in Europe primarily. It's a bloated aristocracy, very little social mobility. Pretty much you were going to live your father's life or your mother's life. That was it. You're a peasant or you're a wealthy person. There's really no middle class. There's nothing in between. So the idea that you could come to a new world and take responsibility for your life, determine the consequences of your life, was a very big idea. So you get on a leaky boat, you travel the months across the water, and you come to America because there's a promise. And the first promise is, you are responsible for your life. You are responsible for the consequences that you create. You could determine your own destiny and then live it. There's no safety net, but we're going to give you freedom. And freedom was the intoxicating element. Now, there were two other big ideas that emerged as this country was born. One was opportunity, endless opportunity, and equality for all before the law. Wow, this is a big idea. That the way you finished your life was not determined by the way you began it. What a concept. Now, for the last 200 years, we've been trying to negotiate how all these principles fit together. Because you see, there's some tension between them. Freedom and responsibility are polar ends. Freedom without responsibility is chaos. So how much responsibility is there, and how much freedom is there? Opportunity and equality are polar ends. Opportunity without equality just leads to a concentration of wealth and power. But how much equality do you really impose? Through laws and regulations. Otherwise, you take away people's opportunity. So let's look at the American Promise updated to 2005. We have something called the lower right and the lower left. Look what's on the lower right. That's what I call industrial capitalism, free market capitalism, Milton Friedman's capitalism. It's the concept that if everybody acts in their self-interest, the collective greed will produce the highest and best result possible. The greatest wealth and the greatest well-being. It's Walmart world. Walmart is the epitome of industrial capitalism. Well, then let's look at the lower left. The lower left, this is the victim part of liberalism. This is what I call failed liberalism. We need to become just like Europe. We need to bring back the trade unions. It's something called social democracy. The best we can hope for is the US Post Office. That's what the lower left can promise us. That's the best it could be. We'll regulate everything. It was what Lyndon Johnson did when he created the Great Society. Gosh, we'll just give so much money away, we'll depress everyone who receives it. We'll institutionalize people on welfare. What do we get when we tried that before? We got Jimmy Carter. We got 20% interest rates and total stagnation. No growth at all. We got a country that absolutely lost its confidence. These are old ideas competing. And what we see in the press and what we see on TV every night as these people on Fox and CNN scream at each other. And they write these snarly little books at each other. How to talk to a liberal if you must. Or how the dumb white fat guys or whatever it is. It's all a discussion at the lower right and the lower left. It's not the discussion of the future. And you all know it. We have the best that these ideas can produce. This is it. It's called Boomer World, and welcome to it. Over the last 25 years, there has been no real wage gain in the middle class, people making $35,000 to $90,000 a year. The only increase in household income has been due to other people in the house working, usually the spouse. Meanwhile, we have 33 million people living in poverty, 45 million people who can't afford health insurance. 5% of our country owns 33% of all the assets. By the way, that's the biggest differential since the Depression. So this is new. Another thing that's going on is it used to be the path to the American dream was through education. It still is. And America has a great educational system, right? 16 million kids in high school this year. 25% of those kids will not graduate. They will drop out. About 50% of those kids will start college, but only half of those will finish in 5 years. We know that college graduates make twice as much money as high school graduates. You got to go to college, but college now costs 40% more than it did in 1990. We know that 52% of graduates owe between $10,000 and $40,000 when they graduate from college with their bachelor's degree. These are degrees in English, anthropology. These are not degrees in medicine or law. 8 million millionaires in the United States. That's quite an achievement. They all live in multi-million-dollar houses. And they've created a world where a starter home for their children's $500,000. What a great idea. Boomer World is a whole series of events that have produced a condition that we find ourselves in today, where there is a great polarization of income, a great polarization of feeling, where in recent pre-election polls, the most common statements made by people were a sense of hopelessness, despair, impotence. That's pretty weird in a country with this promise. Now, this is the greatest country on earth, and I believe that. But is this really the best we can do? That's the question that Gen 21's asking.
Life satisfaction is rapidly declining in America. Many of us commute for hours to an unfulfilling job, work late, and arrive back home after dark too exhausted to have a real life.
People ask me, what am I supposed to do? My answer is, follow Thomas Jefferson's challenge. Pursue your greatest life. Follow your genuine dreams. Make decisions that will give you a life of meaning, a life you're proud of, a life that's personally fulfilling.
The educational resources offered by the American Dream Project are designed to revolutionize your quality of life so you can pursue real happiness. You'll learn how to identify your unique personal dream and then put it into action. Our Dream Package includes a DVD of the Reclaiming Your American Dream television program, as well as the book Your Dreams on Fire. Laid out in a simple, easy-to-read format, the book will inspire you to take control of your life and your destiny. Our Promise Package adds 2 powerful seminars on DVD, and as a special free bonus, the Ignite Your Future 4-disc audio set. The What is Your Promise seminar focuses on achieving a fulfilling career, whether you run a large organization or are just the CEO of your own life. The What is Your Dream seminar will help you think differently about your dreams and will inspire you to make the changes that will lead to a better home, work, and personal life. Once you can understand your design and begin to express it in the way you live your life, you'll create new solutions and see new opportunities.
It's really up to each one of us. When we are pursuing our lives in ways that bring us the happiness we long for, the entire energy of our culture will change.
The 21st century American Revolution is underway and we need you. Bring your time, energy, and ideas. Join the American Dream Project. Order your promise package today and help shape an America we can all be proud of. Stagnant wages, layoffs, soaring healthcare and fuel costs, a tidal wave of debt, corporate, political, and religious scandal. Is this really what America has become?
Is this the best we can do? We can do better, and we must.
Many American organizations, large and small, are thriving through innovation. Innovators don't imitate, they change the game. They stand for who they are and what they deeply value.
I get asked all the time, how can I be a clothing manufacturer in the United States? How can you compete against China? My competitors pay, 16 cents an hour in Vietnam or 14 cents an hour in China, and yet here I am very simply paying prevailing American wages, and we've been growing since day one.
In spite of labor costs 75 to 100 times that of his competition, Matt's company has experienced double-digit growth for the last 3 consecutive years.
One of the really nice aspects of staying domestic is that I continue to have an organization. I have relationships with our employees, and it is a community. At the end of the day, it's about people getting together to do things. And I find tremendous satisfaction in that. It's meaningful for me.
If you want to experience a workplace that is truly satisfying, our Promise package is for you. It includes What is Your Promise?, a 75-minute seminar in leadership that imparts key strategies for becoming global proof and describes how to create a workplace that is a hothouse of fresh ideas.
I want the economic power of this organization to have an impact on America. My family, they're all immigrants. They all started with nothing. How many places in the world can you start with nothing and you can really live a dream life?
America has a future as good as we can make it. It takes people like Matt, you, me, all of us to make new choices to get new results.
Start down the road to a dynamic, progressive, and fulfilling workplace. Order your Promise package today.
There is something that's recently come to the fore that I have found to be amazing, a kind of perfect storm of invisible forces that are coming together right now that is going to change the future. And the future is going to change primarily because our children don't want this world. They don't want to be us. They are not us in training. Very few of us get that. And so this new generation, Gen 21, that's the ages of 15 to 40, of which there's 126 million of you, have a dream to take all that is good and make it better. Their agenda is to live what's called a vital life. That's a life where they value experience over stuff. They want primarily to be happy. Now, who doesn't want to be happy? I mean happy now. And what do I mean by happy now? It means to have peace of mind, contentment, feeling like my life is worthwhile, it makes sense, and low stress now. Because they value low stress, boomers think they're slackers. So what's the dream gap? Boomers are perplexed. They say, oh, they're slackers. They won't pay their dues. Guess what? The next generation doesn't feel like there's any dues to pay because there's no club they're trying to join. You with me? They want a life, and they want a life now. Real work with real meaning, time off, flex time, vacation time, and health benefits. And if you can't give it to me, then I'm going to find a way to get it for myself. I say this to my big clients. The war for talent is over, and you've lost. Anybody want to work for IBM? Anybody want to work for any big company anymore? Working for the man. Well, our kids get it. We don't. We're still excited to work for the man because hopefully there'll be stock options. Since 1979, major corporations have laid off 54 million people. That's a lot of moms and dads. That's a lot of heartbreak. They've told us there's a new social contract. It's work for hire, baby. If we don't need you, you're gone. If we can improve earnings, you're gone. Doesn't matter how competent you are. Doesn't matter what you're working on. Because if I can boost that stock price, it's a payday for me, baby. So I hope you're good. Yeah, that's the message. Well, they got the message. You go into organizations today, the biggest complaint in organizations today, they say there's no bench strength. Meaning there's nobody coming up to be the leaders of the future. Because the big bureaucratic companies that we read about in Fortune magazine every day have created jobs that people don't want. One of my clients is one of the big 4 accounting firms. One of the biggest problems today is to get senior managers who make about $120,000 a year to become a partner. Now, a partner makes $300,000 to $500,000 a year. This is not like a little bump. This is like an enormous ride to the promised land. Why would people not want to do that? And the reason is, as I talked and interviewed to these young professionals, is they didn't want to give up their life for some money. Because they look at the life of a partner and say, I don't want that life. I don't want 80 hours a week. Whose life are you living? See, growing up, you were told what you should want. Mom told you, Dad told you. Your pastor, your rabbi, your coach, your boss. I went to Catholic school. In the first grade, Sister Mary reached down, grabbed me by the cheeks and said, "You look like a little monkey." I just ran with it. What I wanted for Christmas that year was Zip. Zip is a stuffed chimpanzee, wears red overalls and a yellow t-shirt that says Zip on it. Earlier this year, my wife found Zip on eBay. That's why I love eBay. Now I have Zip next to me. Well, Zip was my friend. I took Zip everywhere with me. If I was a monkey boy, I was going to be a great monkey boy. So I always had my mother pack bananas. So at lunchtime, I could prominently eat bananas. I've always played on the monkey bars. I would kind of slink around like this at school. People would make fun of me, and I loved it. When I got home at night, I tried to get around the living room without touching my feet on the floor. I was monkey boy. This went on for about 6 months. This is before people thought about interventions. My mother said she was either going to have to call a vet or just talk me out of this. You are not a monkey. You are not a monkey boy. I finally got over it, sort of. What are some of the things that ring in your ears? Like when I work with female executives, one of the things they tell me they feel guilty about when they have children is they work really hard, they get home at night, and there's no hot dinner ready for either their spouse or their kids, and their mother always had a hot dinner ready for them, and somehow they tell themselves, well, I'm not a super person, I live at a different time, my mom didn't work, but still there's that guilt. Why? It's because we've been programmed, socially programmed by the culture, socially programmed by our parents. Lots of times when I'm working with executives, I say, do you know who you really are? So I asked them to make a list. And I said, I want you to take a Post-it notepad, and I want you to write down every little bumper sticker that a coach, a pastor, a parent has told you growing up that you need to do to be okay. The stack of Post-it notes, 20, 30, 40, if I really get them to do it, sometimes 50 Post-it notes. Now there's all kinds of things that we've been told. How about this? Tuck in your shirt. When I was young, clean your plate. My mother said, be a member of the Clean Plate Club because there's starving children in India. It was always India. And somehow if I ate all the food on the plate, they wouldn't starve. I don't understand. But now when you get a plate full of food, there's so much of it that if you're a member of the Clean Plate Club, you'll also be a member of the Blimp Club. If you want to succeed, work hard. Right? I've been told that all my life. How about this? If you're rich, I know you're successful. And how about this, a favorite one? Always a good idea, wear clean underwear. Well, most of us have picked up these little bumper sticker ideas about what goals we should have our entire life. So imagine ourselves covered with 50, 100 of these that we have not chosen. What we find is this: when people really work hard to achieve somebody else's goals, they feel dissatisfied when those goals are achieved, maybe relieved. But there's no joy, there's no satisfaction, there's no excitement. That was somebody else's agenda. Relief is maybe what you feel, but not high satisfaction. To feel satisfaction, you have to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. That means choosing a life that you really want. About 3 years ago, I was giving a lecture on something called Beyond Branding. The concept is, how do you create a company that stands for something that people really want to identify with? Not just good toothpaste or not just good cola, but something that people really feel like this company is exactly right for me. So in the process, there was a young woman. She came up to me after the lecture and said, "Can I drive you to the airport? I really want to talk to you." So off we went in her Audi TT, careening down the road, shifting in between traffic. She says, "I've really got a problem, and I just want your opinion on it." I've been with this company for 17 years. She was 37. She said, I was a single mom when I was 20. I became a receptionist for this company. I climbed through the ranks. I got to be a salesperson, then the sales manager. The company got in trouble 3 or 4 years ago. They put me and asked me to be in charge of it. So I did some pretty unusual things. I promised that I wouldn't have any layoffs. And I asked everybody to help come up with ideas to save money and drive revenue. And what I ended up doing is I put, and this is not made up, a custodian in charge of the whole internal process. That's the part that's unusual. This is a custodian, by the way, with tattoos all over his arms, around his neck, everything else. He became on fire with this process of holding group meetings and coming up with tangible projects. In 18 months, she turned the company around. And she said, "I'm really thinking of quitting." I said, "Why would you quit? 37 years old, president of the company, you probably become the CEO." She said, "Oh yeah, they want me to become the CEO." And I said, "What's going on?" "Well, because we got in this trouble, we're owned by investment bankers and they want us to go public. And I know if we go public, we're going to lose our soul. And everything that made this company great and everything I just did is going to go away. Because we're going to have to run the company strictly by the numbers. I just don't want to spend half my time talking to Wall Street analysts when what I really love is this company." So I asked her, "What is your dream?" She thought a little bit. There was silence as we were going down the road. We pulled up to the curb in front of the airport. She said, "Well, if you really want to know, my dream is to change the world." So I got out of the car, and I shut the door, leaned down, put my head in, and said, "I give you permission." And then I said, "Look, you have a great platform. Whether the company loses soul or not is up to you. Why don't you use this platform to change the world exactly the way you want?" She said, "Okay, well, how would I do that?" I said, "You got to tell people. What I suggest you do is put your dream in a speech. Gather all, there are about 200 senior executives, gather all the executives, get members of the board there, give your speech, see what happens." 2 weeks later, she did it. It was really a great speech. In fact, she prepared a facsimile of a cover of Fortune magazine 10 years in the future with the date. The company was on it. It had all the great achievements the company was setting for the world, the example of the world it was on. She gave this great speech. Got a standing ovation. There were tears, there were cheers. And even the crusty board members were moved by the heat of her passion. A year ago, the company went public. Its stock has doubled. It's a Wall Street darling. And when she did her road shows, when she talks to analysts, what she talks about is how she's changing the world through this great private education company.
Stagnant wages, layoffs, soaring healthcare and fuel costs, a tidal wave of debt, corporate, political, and religious scandal. Is this really what America has become?
Is this the best we can do? We can do better, and we must.
Many American organizations, large and small, are thriving through innovation. Innovators don't imitate, they change the game. They stand for who they are and what they deeply value.
I get asked all the time, how can I be a clothing manufacturer in the United States? How can you compete against China? My competitors pay, 16 cents an hour in Vietnam or 14 cents an hour in China, and yet here I am very simply paying prevailing American wages, and we've been growing since day one.
In spite of labor costs 75 to 100 times that of his competition, Matt's company has experienced double-digit growth for the last 3 consecutive years.
One of the really nice aspects of staying domestic is that I continue to have an organization. I have relationships with our employees, and it is a community. At the end of the day, it's about people getting together to do things. And I find tremendous satisfaction in that. It's meaningful for me.
If you want to experience a workplace that is truly satisfying, our Promise package is for you. It includes What is Your Promise?, a 75-minute seminar in leadership that imparts key strategies for becoming global proof and describes how to create a workplace that is a hothouse of fresh ideas.
I want the economic power of this organization to have an impact on America. My family, they're all immigrants. They all started with nothing. How many places in the world can you start with nothing and you can really live a dream life?
America has a future as good as we can make it. It takes people like Matt, you, me, all of us to make new choices to get new results.
Start down the road to a dynamic, progressive, and fulfilling workplace. Order your Promise package today.
There is a feeling like this country with this economy ought to work a little differently. That somehow the ladder of success cannot have all its rungs sawed off. See, industrial capitalism is based on an either-or. Either we're going to have regulation and poverty, or no regulation and wealth. Well, there's something new. It's the upper center. It's going back to the thoughts of Thomas Jefferson and the man with a beautiful mind, John Nash. 1950, Princeton, John Nash writes a 2-page paper, and he mathematically proves something absolutely astonishing. What he proves is that there is an equilibrium point in which the greatest good for the greatest number of people also produce the greatest good for each individual. Did you hear that? The greatest good for the greatest number of people create the greatest good for each individual. That's the John Nash equilibrium. He won the Nobel Prize for that in 1994. Our society is not geared to help us achieve this. We are on our own. That's why the American Dream Project came to be. As I gave talks throughout the country, people said, where could I get information about this? How can we get involved with this? So we started a community that is dedicated to help each other live their dream. We believe that if we can change our world, we will change the world. I just want you to try to imagine, what would your life be like if it were 3 times better? And how would you engineer that life? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to stop doing right now? I'm convinced that the world needs your dream, that you were designed for something, and that your desires are part of your spiritual DNA. And the closer that we can get to living our dream, the more the dream will change the world.
Corporate, political, and religious scandal, layoffs, stagnant wages, a tidal wave of debt. What's happened to the American dream? All of us can imagine a better, more thriving economy, greater opportunity, and a standard of life we want to pass on to our children. But no one out there is going to solve our nation's problems. Changing America for the better starts with you. Bring your time, energy, and ideas. Join the American Dream Project and help shape an America we can all be proud of. This program is brought to you by the American Dream Project, a national educational initiative designed to reignite the real American dream.